Hi guys, it's Mário Vegali here again, and welcome to the second part of the text, How to Have More Willpower. How to Have More Willpower, part number 2. Let's study the text line by line. So, without further ado, let's get into the text. So, let me just adjust the screen here, and we are going to go through all the text line by line. So, let's start. We're gonna begin here with the sentence, I also get a ton of emails and messages, okay? I also get a ton of emails and messages. Here we have the famous verb to get, which has a ton of different meanings. In this specific context here, it means to receive. So if you receive email, if you get an email, it means you receive an email. So here, I also get a ton of emails, meaning I also receive a ton of emails and messages. And what I used to do before, was wake up. So in the past, he used to, wake up and check all that stuff first thing in the morning. Okay, this is a very common expression, first thing in the morning, okay? When you say, I do something first thing in the morning, you mean the first thing that I do when I wake up. So I wake up, and the first thing that I do is this. So when he says here, I used to check all that stuff. So he used to, in the past, he used to get a ton of emails and messages. And the first thing he would do in the morning, every morning, was to check all those emails and all those messages, okay? So what I used to do was wake up and check all that stuff, all those things, first thing in the morning. And I would spend hours doing that. I would spend hours doing that. Here we have this verb here, would. When you say I would spend hours, the would here is used to mean something that you did regularly in the past. It's pretty similar. To to say I used to spend hours. Okay, it's something you used to do regularly in the past. So when you say I would, when you're talking about something that, happened in the past, and you say, I would do this, or I would spend hours doing that. Okay, I don't know why it's here. So, let's get a better position here for you guys. So, I would spend hours doing that. Okay, when you're talking about something that happened in the past, and you use the auxiliary verb would, the would means something you did regularly in the past. There's a different way of saying would when you say, for example, I would go, meaning there was the possibility of going, but in fact you didn't go. When you're talking about something that, there was a possibility of something happening, but in reality it didn't happen. So you can use, it's a different way of using the auxiliary verb would, but when you're talking about the past, as we are talking about the past here in this specific text, then would it's similar to I used to. It's something you used to do regularly in the past. So I would spend hours doing that. And then when it was time for me, to actually do creative work, I was just completely exhausted, okay? So he would spend hours. He used to spend hours in the morning. The first thing that he would do in the morning, he would wake up, and then first thing, before anything else, he would go through all those, all his messages and all his emails first thing in the morning. And then when was the time, when was time for him to actually, do creative work, which is his kind of work, he was completely exhausted, and he was not able to do his, creative work. And then he says, and this is because willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired. So willpower, it's just like a muscle. The more you use it, the more, it gets tired. So it gets here. We have the verb get again. So gets here means to become, to enter in a certain state, in a certain condition. So it gets tired. It becomes tired, okay? It's not tired, and then it becomes tired. So if you use your willpower, throughout the day, your willpower, it will get, reduced. It will get lower because it's just like a muscle, it gets tired, it becomes tired. So it's like going to the gym. It's kind of like going to the gym. So it's kind of like going to the gym. Here, kind of like, it means it's similar to going to the gym. So you can say it's similar to going to the gym, or you can say it's kind of like going to the gym, to deadlift. Now, deadlift, it's a type of workout. If you go to Google, let me show you guys here. If you go to Google and you type deadlift, okay, and you search for images, you can see this, this type of exercise here. It is called deadlift, okay? So it's kind of like going to the gym to deadlift. I don't think there's a translation. If you know how to the name, I don't know the name of this exercise. I don't know. Maybe in Portuguese we also call it, deadlift. So that's why we translated it here as levantar peso, okay? But if you know the actual name of this exercise in Portuguese, feel free to use your own translation, okay? The important thing here is that you understand that deadlift, it's a kind of workout, it's a kind of physical exercise. So it's kind of like going to the gym to deadlift. It's similar to going to the gym to deadlift, to do this kind of physical exercise. And instead of deadlifting, so deadlift is a verb actually here. So instead of deadlifting, you decide it's a good idea to run on the treadmill. Now, treadmill, it's not a kind of workout, but it's actually a machine used. It's a machine that you run on top of it. Let me show you. If you go to Google Images again and you type it out, treadmill, it's treadmill, right? So this, if you go to the gym, right? It's a treadmill and you run on top of it, okay? You run on it. It's a treadmill. So it's kind of like going to the gym to deadlift, and instead of deadlifting, you decide it's a good idea to run on the treadmill for 2 hours. First you run 2 hours on the treadmill, and then you deadlift. So by the time you're done running, so by the time here, where's my my whiteboard? Okay, so by the time means when, okay, and you're done means finished, so when you say you're done running, it's the same thing as saying by the time you finish running, okay? So by the time you're done running, it's the same thing as when you finish running, okay? When you finish running, by the time you're done running, it's just a different way. If you're a different way of saying, of expressing an idea in English. So done, to be done means to finish, to be done. So to be, the verb to be done. So you're done means you're finished or you finished. So by the time you finish running, by the time you are finished, okay, by the time you are done running, you probably won't have the energy to deadlift. And so when you finish running, you probably won't have the energy to deadlift. And if you somehow do, now, do here, pay attention to the translation here. Você provavelmente não terá energia para levantar peso e se de algum modo você tiver, right? So, do here, translated as tiver, it's it's a way of not repeating yourself in the same sentence. So it's basically, it's kind of complicated, or it can be kind of complicated in the beginning, but it's just a matter of, getting used to it. So you probably, let's not use probably. Let's say you won't have the energy to deadlift. And if you do, let's use a more simple version of this sentence here. So pay attention here. You won't have the energy to deadlift. And if you do, so